let's just have a thoughtful, contemplative conversation about something that I currently find quite baffling, even perhaps befuddling. The announcement yesterday that all COVID regulations, including the requirement to isolate after testing positive, are to be abolished in England in 2 weeks' time. And I mean, hand on heart, I just don't understand it. That's all. And it doesn't mean that it's not a brilliant idea. It just means that I don't understand it, because I possibly am living in a bubble. I mean, we all live in bubbles in a way, but different bubbles often. And my bubble is not currently, apart from one of the kids having to stay off school because she got a dose, and so did half her class, and a lot of teachers in a lot of Laura schools, I'm turning into Cilla Black, a lot of teachers in a Laura schools have been off with it as well. So that's causing major disruption, or it's causing some disruption in schools. But I don't currently feel that my life has been or is being enormously disrupted by infectious people, i.e. people who've tested positive, staying at home. I just don't. So I don't quite understand what the drive is here. And as far as I can tell, that's the biggest thing that's been lifted. In fact, I would struggle to tell you what restrictions are still in place, apart from what still strikes me as the rather obvious one. If you've got it, stay at home for a few days. Do you see what I mean now? I know it's all been turned into a political football, and I know that the right-wing media or the Boris Johnson cheerleaders have been telling you for years now that you don't really want lockdowns, you don't really want to stay safe, you don't really want to protect each other, you want to get out there and start, licking windows, licking faces, licking traffic furniture again in order to infect as many people as you possibly can, because that way the economy keeps on ticking over. I know all that, but you never fell for it. We never fell for it, did we? So what is the rationale for this? 0345 60 60 973. I don't get it. And then we can move on to whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. I think, because it's not fair to me to ask you to pontificate upon an issue that I have not pontificated upon myself, I think that all we're really seeing here, and look, with the success of the vaccine rollout, I hate this because it is going to be the poor unvaccinated souls that are the only ones running the risk. Not the only ones, but by far more likely to be running a risk of serious illness and or death when you start inviting infected people back into the marketplace, back into the centre of the universe. But I think we're looking at that very British problem of the relationship between workers and employers, the workforce and the owning classes, as Karl Marx would have called them. Because I still find it, one of the big changes in the workplace since I was a lad is the number of people that come to work when they're sick, because the nature of their employment has changed, and you're much, much more likely now to be on a 0 hours contract, whether you want to be or not. And I fully accept that lots of people want to be. But if you're on a 0 hours contract, or you're working as a freelance, or you're a contractor, or you're self-employed, or whatever the arrangement may be, you don't get paid if you don't turn up. So on the one hand, you've got that enormous pressure, and sick pay, if you are entitled to it, is a fraction. It's another one of those things that whatever you do, don't look at what they get in Germany. We've taken back control now. So do not, whatever you do, look at what you get with sick pay or indeed unemployment payments in Germany and other European countries. In this country, you get a pittance, an absolute pittance in sick pay, even if you're lucky enough to qualify for it. And on top of that, there is a culture in many, but not all workplaces, that you will come here, come hell or high water, you'll be in work tomorrow. And therefore you have a proliferation, and there's clearly a balance to be struck. You shouldn't be able to take the day off work if you've, stubbed your toe or something. But you now routinely have, you see it as much on public transport as you do in your own workplace, people who are like walking petri dishes, sneezing and snivelling and snuffling and spreading their germs all over the place, dragging their carcasses into work because they think that is somehow the right thing to do. I've always taken the opposite view, but I don't get paid if I don't turn up. So, there's a bit of a conversation to be had on whether or not. Can you imagine? I'd have to go without caviar or something like that if I missed a show in a week. I'd have to cut down on my daily caviar portions, or only buy one brand new cashmere overcoat a week or something like that. It would just be unbearable. No one can live in those circumstances. But you do it. We all do it, and some people almost celebrate it. They sort of high five themselves on the way into work. I'm feeling absolutely awful, but I'm here and ready for duty. So that's all I've got, to be honest with you. All I've got as the thinking behind this. And I know there's the political angle as well. You've got Brexit hardman Steve Baker and his crowd of cronies all shouting for, I don't know what exactly it is they're shouting for, but my God, they're tough. They're tough and manly. So they don't think we should, oh no, down with germs. Germs won't defeat us. You've got to believe in better. You can defeat germs in the same way that we defeated Germans in the Second World War. So you've got that mad wing of the Tory party that continues to exercise unprecedented influence over a completely hobbled, and I'm going to invent a word now because that was working quite nice as a rhyme, nobbled, hobbled and becobbled Prime Minister. But other than that, I mean, why would we do this? In many ways, the calls I'm hoping for today are the ones that will say, oh no, James, here's a good reason, and then we can all relax a bit. Because right now, you wouldn't actually put anything past this lot. An education secretary saying children shouldn't be able to have opinions about their political leader. They shouldn't be able to have opinions about the Prime Minister. Secretary of State for Education, essentially opposing education, literally from the Latin. Of course, education means to lead out. So he is banning, or would seek to ban, the leading out of political discourse in the nation's classrooms if and when that political discourse turns out to treat the current incumbent with negativity. You don't just sell your soul or become a lie when you defend a lie, Nadhim Zahawi. You surrender something much, much more precious than that. You surrender your good name and your sense of self. And it's very close to being too late for you. Very close indeed. But we'll get onto that a little later in the programme. 15 minutes after 10 is the time. One question here. Given I don't know, where is it? If there's no need for them that are COVID-19 positive to isolate, why even bother to test? And I think that's the point, because they're getting rid of free testing as well. So this is what living with it means. I mean, we've been living with it since it started. This is why the phrase is, once again, so utterly meaningless. We've got to learn to live with it. Well, apart from the poor souls who've died with it, we are all living with it and have been since March of 2020. But they're getting rid of any requirement for you to self-isolate when you're positive, and they're also probably getting rid, I think, of all the free tests. So the country is going to be, I imagine, riddled with infected people. Mildly infected and mildly contagious, but still infectious. Why? 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. That's all. And this is not a political football. Apart from the ERG or CRG or, I don't know, BBGGBG, whatever they're calling themselves this week, Brexit hardman Steve Baker's gang of manly macho men. What is the point of this? What is the positive? There you go. Only took me 16 minutes. What is the positive of allowing sick people back to work, or infected people, because they could be asymptomatic? Do you know? Have you worked it out?